Okay, everyone, it looks like we have about 41 participants, which is a little bit up from last week uh, for our COVID Roundtable series on September 3rd, 2020. Uh, I know that you guys are super swamped, and so I hope this time is well spent. And I sure enjoy the time because I enjoy seeing everyone and getting to visit the little bit that we do. It seems like we're missing a lot of opportunities through our regional meetings and our state association, and we just don't get to see each other like we used to. And so I miss that, and I bet you guys do too. And so welcome to the COVID-19 Response Roundtable series. This is for leadership. And so this is one of my favorite shows, and COVID-19 Response Roundtables are dynamite. Thank you, JJ, for inspiring us and moving us along here. And so I know everyone wishes that Jeannie could just blink her eyes and send the COVID away. But until then, we have to rely on support and guidance from TEA. And so the newest releases, there's a public health guidance that was released on September 2nd, and an attendance and enrollment guidance that the latest update is August 20th, 2020, if you haven't checked lately. In public health, of course, it's the same old, and I won't go through these like I have been, but it's the same old, pretty much the same information that talks about notice, prevention, response, and mitigation that has to be carried out in the schools. It talks about students, again, it tells you about the mandate that they have to have a 90% attendance to be awarded credit, and that's not going away this year. Here's the, it was new to me in the public health guidance. If an individual has symptoms that could be COVID-19 and they want to return to school before completing the stay-at-home period, they must either A, obtain a medical note from a doctor clearing them for return, or, this is new, they can obtain an acute infection test at a physician's office or an approved testing location. And in that public health planning guidance document, they have the link that'll show you where all of the tests are in the state. Here in the South Metroplex, they've had quite a few free testing sites. I even got tested myself negative, just in case y'all were wondering. But I thought I was getting the for the antibodies test, but I wasn't. So anyway, I think I already knew I was negative. And so in the attendance and enrollment, it's kind of the same thing. I just like putting that in there to talk about all of the co-op seems to be a big question. The time that they spend in work-based learning opportunities can continue to be included in the instructional minute calculation, and that work-based learning opportunities can be internships, mentorships, and those can be virtual. All just depends on the setting and the individual student plan. Again, all of you are kind of in the middle of things, but just keep in mind that TEA has determined that all career tech classes can be provided through remote instruction, but that the local education agencies or the districts have the flexibility to determine that students may have to come in and do some on-site work. Attendance and enrollment, of course, you know this straight from the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook. They must average 45 minutes per day or 450 minutes over a 2-week or 10-day period in order to receive a V1 code needed to generate funding. And you may combine minutes from the different in-person, synchronous, or asynchronous learning methods. And of course, this was a slide that we talked about last time. If a student is scheduled to receive instruction through on-campus or synchronous and is not present, can they still be marked present if they do an asynchronous method? And of course, the answer to that is a student who is scheduled to receive instruction through LEA's on-campus or remote but is not present can still be marked present if they complete the asynchronous work. Here's a couple other things, some miscellaneous items that we've had several questions on over the past few days. A lot of people have called and asked about the the CTED classes, the career and technical education for the educationally disabled, and those classes have been taken out of the student attendance accounting handbook for 2021. And if you watch the, excuse me, if you watch the question and answer that Ryan did for us on August 13th, he addressed this. And basically, this is what he said. The old service ID numbers for the CTED classes, the CTED classes, have been gone for about 3 years. And they really don't match the least restrictive environment language that's in the special ed code. And so now, only thing they did, and so in the eyes of TEA and special ed, the CTED classes have been gone for 3 years. So really what they're doing in essence is just making the student attendance accounting handbook match the PEIMS data standards. And so one of the biggest benefits of offering a CTED class was that you could generate funding at the 7th and 8th grade level. And now, of course, any high school credit course, an H course from CTE, can generate funding for 7th and 8th grade. And so you really didn't lose anything. If you use CTED PEIMS numbers last year, they were just regular old PEIMS numbers, so you'll be using the same ones. One thing I would like, I keep hearing from when I get 2 or 3 calls at night, and I was talking to Jason Hudson and some other directors throughout the week, and teacher morale is really pretty low. And I thought I'd just, kind of give you 5 things to look at as far as teacher morale. Make sure that you're keeping the lines of communication open. Make sure that you encourage your teachers to set work boundaries, and they have to have some self-time, and make sure that they're not working all through the night. Make sure that you're accessible to them, which I know most of you are. Be a troubleshooter. If a teacher says, oh gosh, I'm helping this student is asynchronous at home and their Chromebook went down, well, throw a Chromebook in your car and drive it out to that student. Be a troubleshooter. And also, one of the things, develop some type of an award system for your teachers and give them weekly awards. They don't have to be much. Maybe they win a Coke or a lottery ticket or something. Just some type of award system. Teacher of the week, outstanding asynchronous teacher, outstanding synchronous teacher. Whatever you come up with, just some type of award system to recognize the hard work that they're going through. And again, I want to always encourage you, when it comes to the COVID-19 information, be the expert in your district. Don't trust what you're being told by the guy across the hall. Make sure that you go to this website and you read it for yourself and get the most up-to-date information. For CTAT programming that we're doing, of course, we have the next generation administrators for the mid-level CTE admin. We've also we've had 1 session for the CTE New Teacher Academy, and we will start in earnest the 3rd Thursday of September. We have the COVID roundtables like you're a part of, and then we're also doing the instructor roundtables begin today with law and education and training, and the plan is to reach out to some other career clusters and programs of study too, and just to help them network with other teachers and find resources just like you guys do, learn from each other. Midwinter conferences coming up. Robin may want to speak to that later, but it's going to happen one way or another. And then, of course, we do district program evaluations. The last time I got 2 or 3 calls when we talked about this in a roundtable, and we're still doing district program evaluations. So if you need one of those, just shoot me an email. Also, one of the things that I want to encourage you to do, all of the roundtables and the recordings that we do, we post on the Career Tech, the CTAT YouTube channel. And so make sure that you go to the CTAT YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button and do the little bell, and every time we post one, you'll get notified. I always like to put a Far Side cartoon in there, and I don't know why some of them I think are funnier than others, but this one tickled me. You got these three young cowboys from back in the day, and one of them wrecks his horse into a tree, and the other two says, "What are you going to tell your dad?" And I don't know why I thought that was funny, but I did. And never you fear, help us on the way. They keep saying that a cure could be out sometime in the fall. And so keep our fingers crossed. Know that there's a lot of snake oil out there, but you also hear about a lot of the vaccines are going through testing. And so maybe we'll have one soon enough. And so at this point, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, go back into gallery mode, and we'll let the questions and discussion begin. Al. Would someone start off by telling kind of on the when we had the pre-chat in here before we got started, there were some people having some technical issues. Um, anyone would like to start off talking about a technical issue and how they solved it? Angela, I can tell you're talking, but I don't think you're muted. I think her microphone may be off. While she's adjusting that, does anyone else want to go?
There's a lot of conversation in the chat box that is talking about how districts are addressing the Adobe products as well as the devices that are being used. And I know that Ashley, you mentioned you have chill time, which is an awesome acronym. But how are you paying your teachers that stipend? I think we talked about that in August 13th, but have your teachers bought into that? Because I'm having difficulty with my teachers, and we're not even asking them to bring them up until after September 28th.
I haven't, if my teachers are struggling with that, they have not expressed that to me. We've been talking about it for quite some time, and I had the teachers identify early on if they felt their class needed some of that face-to-face skill time. So they are the ones that created the beast by telling me that they felt that the integrity and design of their class required some level, even if it may be a little bit, it may be a lot, depending on the class. And so we created this chill time on Wednesdays. It does not start until next week at the earliest, but each teacher is working with their students on their own based on the needs for their class. So it's very much individually designed by teacher. I am giving them a stipend for it. I talked a little bit about my stipends last week, and I hadn't quite ironed out the breakdown, but my breakdown, I have a couple of components of the stipend, but the stipend specifically designed to support the Wednesday chill time for hybrid classes is $1,000. So it's not a huge stipend. That's for 1 year. I mean, when you spread that over all pay periods, it isn't huge, but it's 1 day a week as they deem necessary, and they get that time with the students. So that's how we handled it.
Hey, Mark, this is Allison, Purple ISD.
Hey, Allison.
Hey, as far as technology issues, our district purchased Horizon 7 virtual desktop, so softwares can run on Chromebooks. And it was a pretty, expensive purchase for the first year. But for 800 licenses that they can be on 800 kids at one time. But after this year, it'll be about $30,000 a year.
How is that working? Well,
we have right now we're identifying the classes and the software that they need. And we've been in school, we'll start face-to-face. We've been online for 2 weeks. We'll start face-to-face on the 8th. And so right now their lessons in Canvas they haven't been using the software. So they'll be the technology department and our coordinators, Andrea and Jacob, are working to get for the software that's tied to each course. And so we will see. But we feel pretty good about it. Fort Worth is doing something very similar. They have like a docking station. All their students have Chromebooks. They did away with all their desktops. They have docking station. When the student comes to class, of course, when they start, they'll dock their Chromebook, and then they'll get up and leave, which will help with the spreading of the disease. And they have no more desktops. But we're not doing that. Our Chromebooks are virtual desktops for our online learners.
I have heard mixed reviews on how well that works, and that's posted in Connect quite a bit, so we may send some people your way. It sounds like y'all are making it work just great. Has anyone, and another question that we see quite a bit is people going away from Microsoft to the Google Suite, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. Is anyone having luck, because that's also on the certification list, anyone having luck with the Google Suite as opposed to Microsoft for certification? Any Google Suite folks out there?
This is Jean Carroll at Pittsburgh, and we are going to attempt that this year, but we haven't started certifications yet.
Okay, very good. Did y'all do it last year, Miss Carroll?
No, we did MOS. We just switched to the G Suite this year because of our Chromebooks and the students being at home. We could do G Suite on the Chromebook, but not the MOS the way we had it set up.
Pittsburgh's the home of Bo Pilgrim too down there. Still got his castle.
Well, the castle's still there. The head is gone.
Tracy, you had a question about instructional minutes.
Yeah, sorry, I had to mute because I was talking to one of the principals about it, but.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to try to make this make sense. I would have put it in the chat, but I don't know how to type it. You know, we still have our instructional minutes we got to deal with, average of 45, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
We've got campuses that are staggering their dismissal times from classes. They're going to put them at way less. Are we going to get flagged, or do we go with the paper bell schedule?
Well, I think if you called TEA, you get the answer that you have to do the 45 minutes a day. And the way that that's documented is in the schedule. Does that make sense?
Well, except that they're publishing both. They've already shared out with all the parents that they're dismissing from the classes between 10 and 15 minutes earlier than what the actual bell schedule reports. So we went from having 90 minutes of class to having 70 and 71. So anybody who wanted to go look would see both. They would see a bell schedule that says 90 minutes, but then they would see a separate publication that says, but your students are being dismissed from class after 70 minutes.
Well, I think the problem here is that everyone would understand why they're dismissing.
Sure.
Yeah, staggering, you know, because it has fewer people in the hall, right?
Yeah. But those of y'all who know me know I'm a stickler for following the rules because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. I think the answer is going to always be, though, that you have to do those minutes. I don't know. I'd post that other schedule, but it sounds like you already have.
They already did.
Tracy, they are releasing every period that might, I mean, it sounds like you're blocked, but I mean, they're releasing every period 15 minutes early?
Yeah, well, from what I can tell, they're staggering the dismissals. So if they're in first period, let me see if I still have this thing pulled up. No, I don't.
I just asked because one of my campuses was doing that, but it wasn't that many minutes. They're like staggering 20 to 30 seconds per hallway as they release. So
No, they've
that, and I talked with them about it, and they actually altered their school day, adjusted their school day length by 5 or 6 minutes to accommodate that, so that every class period was the appropriate amount of time.
Yeah,
But it wasn't as large.
That's what we were just talking about. But yeah, no, they're changing their dismissal times by as much as 10 minutes. See, they also have an advisory period of 30 minutes built in every day. So they're already under at 80, 80, 85, and then they're dismissing another 10 minutes early.
I'd put a monetary value to that decision and see if it makes them change their mind.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was just checking to see if anybody else had run across that or seen that on their, in their districts. And I wanted to make sure I had the correct understanding. So yeah, I told him, and he's like, let me know what I got to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think what they tell you to do if you ask for an official answer would be to lengthen the day.
The only thing I can think is either that or they're going to have to alter the way they were planning to do their advisory so they can get some of that 30 minutes back.
We at Marble Falls, we were not in compliance last year on our advisory days. And so they proposed a schedule like that again this year. And we have advisory every other week. And they proposed a schedule like that again this year. And I said, guys, we cannot knowingly do this again. And so because of how our lunches are this year, our 5th period is extra long. It's like, instead of 48 minutes, it's like 65 minutes, I think, because of how they're having to do sanitation with lunches and all that kind of stuff. And so we just added our advisory to the end of 5th period, since that was a longer period, and it kept all of our other class periods the right length instead of doing an altered schedule every 2 weeks. And at the end of the day, they are releasing a little bit, like they're letting bus riders go maybe 1 minute early, and if they drive, go like 2 minutes early. But we don't have that posted anywhere.
Well, a small portion of it, you could say, well, that's just classroom management and safety. But 20, 30 minutes, that's a stretch.
Well, they're 10 minutes which I still think is a lot from each class period. But when you tack on the 30-minute advisory period that's happening every day, now we're way down from where we should be. So
Right.
that I can help with. I was just curious about the I like what Renee Martinez said, the real release times.
Well, I'd for sure send an email on that. Sometimes that's your gun. I'm going to send you an email.
I sent them what it said. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we might want to talk by phone.
Well, and I know what you're saying. You know why they're doing it. You hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you open up that student attendance accounting handbook, and there's right at the first of every section, they got a place that says who's responsible for this. I guarantee you they're putting your name at the top of section 5 where that reads. And so, sometimes they just got to get the bad news from somebody, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all. I appreciate it.
And if they weren't going to do the early release forever, now the activity period, I don't know how you get around that, but if they weren't going to do the early release forever, if it's just to get through COVID, we have that 12 weeks attendance grace period that they're letting us, we're actually using last year's attendance percentage. You might could, if it weren't in writing, you might could get through that first 12 weeks with it. Not with that activity period though, but just the few minutes of early release. Something to think about.
That's a good thought. I know, I don't know if Candace McGowan's on here, but I was talking to her yesterday, and they came up with a deal where they just have one-way, they changed their exit patterns when they leave the classroom to just go one way. So I guess there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, but oh, there's Candace. Candace, what were you telling me exactly? Y'all's made it all one way when you released?
We have it's basically a big square. So our hallways are really narrow. So we are going one way. Everybody goes counterclockwise around the building, except for the one main hall that's the entrance to the main high school and the exit from the career center. They're going two-way. So everybody just comes out and goes counterclockwise. They get a few extra steps and a little exercise.
Anyone else have any clever release ideas? I saw Jason Hudson on here. Jason, if you're on here, could you tell everyone a little bit about what you guys were looking at as far as sending kids to CTSO events? Jason was saying that they're probably going to be the first group to go. And what were you running into there, Jason?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see everyone. Yeah, so one of our first shows back, and I'm sure y'all will have kids there as well, is the State Fair of Texas Livestock Show, and then the Heart of Texas Livestock Show as well. So we'll be sending kids there. Those shows both start at the end of this month. And so we're kind of building our documents to make sure everybody's on the same page with all the district requirements, anything through CDC, and then the livestock show requirements. So I'm building a document to share that with our school board so that they know what it kind of really looks like. We also have sports fixing to start here in a few weeks, but these are the first overnight type trips that we're looking at, and just again trying to make sure everybody's on the same page of what this may be looking like. Maybe it's temporary, but it could be for the full year.
Jason, are you guys driving your students to the stock show, or parents having to take them, or a combination?
Yeah, so in our handbook, we require that when they go to any of the major livestock shows that the parents have to go. And so that's a plus for us in this situation right now. And then as far as lodging, it's the same. It's one family per motel room for right now, which is something to think about. I've heard different things about, from different CFOs about, well, y'all got all this travel money for this year, and I'm probably the only one thinking this right now, but we need to make sure that we're thinking ahead of time, because ones of things do loosen up a little bit, but not enough, and you have restrictions, and you have more motel rooms in the springtime when the CTSO competitions fire up. So we're playing it day by day in that area, but yes, we're trying to be as careful as we can with this opportunity for our kids. But we want to give it a shot. We started bringing animals in to the ag barn back in May, and we want school to move forward. We're starting our 4th week in with kids, and so it's been certainly an opportunity. And but it's going good, and we're looking at some other models as well. So, but yeah, that's it for Wiley.
Fantastic. Anyone else having any issues about sending students to contests or shows or other CTSO events? Maybe those will just go. Katie, go ahead.
Our school district, Mark, said that if the governing board deems that it's acceptable for travel in those capacities, that we will let them travel. So just like with football, if UIL's letting them participate, they can participate. So they're trying not to be discriminatory to our CTE organizations as well as other organizations.
Well, they sure had a lot of football last weekend for the, I guess what, 1, 2, and 3As, 4As. The back-to-back state champion Grandview Zebras won in overtime, in case y'all are keeping a tab on that.
In Pittsburgh, we're allowing the students to travel, but we're also having the parents sign a waiver. And we are social distancing in our travel. If we have more than 2 or 3 that go, then we are taking a bus, and the students are riding a bus to have the social distancing in the travel. If there's a few, we're letting them ride in the truck or the Suburban, but they have to have masks on and, you know, crack the windows just like our county guidance says. I'd love to see Jason's manual because we're working on the same thing with the overnight travel and the hotels. So I'd love to see what he came up with.
That's a really great point. Jason, did you end up coming up with a form for parents to sign?
It's been work in progress, Mark, for the last 3 days. I'm hoping by tomorrow morning I have it where it's ready to present. So yes, I'll share it back out and let y'all look at it. I'm trying to put as many links in there as possible, and that way it's kind of user friendly, but no value obviously if it's hard copy. So I'll send it out to Mark, and y'all can have it and tweak on it as well, because it's a starter unit. But one more thing, I've got another meeting, but I'm not for sure, just food for thought, keep this on your mind, that UIL, I believe, released yesterday afternoon revised information about wearing masks at events. And so they're kind of tightening down the thumb screws on this a little bit. I think there's people going to ball games. I believe what happened was there was a couple of ball games last weekend, and they were televised, and there were a lot of people not wearing their mask. And this is from what I understand. And so they are putting new restrictions on that. My world, back to y'all on this, is whatever I see it with our fine arts and our athletics, is I keep up with that, because that's obviously in correlation with us. So going to making that waiver document that we're talking about, and when kids go to these events, that if they're at this function and the school district it's functioned by that school district, then they need to make sure that they have their mask on. And so I'm hoping all goes well with these 2 events, and that everybody, I certainly don't want this to turn into anything political or anything like that, but we for sure have to make sure that we uphold the safety requirements for our kiddos, and that's what we're trying to do.
That's a great point. And Jason, if Jason shares that with me, I'll post it in CTAT Connect or Connect CTAT. And also, if I get it in time, I'll send it out on the email with the link in the chat. What other big issues or concerns is anyone having that they want to run past the group?
Hey, Mark. This is Marlon from Judson ISD.
How are you, ma'am?
Good, thank you. Nice to see everybody. One of the topics I see coming through was the training plans, and I know I tried sharing the fillable form, but and maybe this is a topic you've discussed in prior meetings. Has there been conversation about the travel that our teachers are expected to do during the first 6 weeks? Our district does not come on board with face-to-face until September 24th or September 28th, I believe is the new date. But we've had our meeting with our career prep teachers at the high schools, and we decided to, and I did visit with Ruthie over at Region 20, and you know, she did say that we can do those digital signatures, and I advised our teachers to connect with parents and students and employers via phone, via email, via to ensure that that our students are really working. But in regards to the travel and the requirement that in the student attendance handbook, any conversation regarding
And you saw the posting for the Google Docs that they had going around where they can electronically sign those?
The one that I saw was, I forgot who the district was. They're using Frontline.
Frontline, that's
to
right.
help, but We just moved into frontline, and that will be a conversation we have as well. But I was talking more about the teacher travel.
And the good thing about frontline, of course, is that SPED uses it, so it makes it consistent. And is your question have to do with teacher safety about allowing them to travel, or which specific aspect?
Yes, the teacher travel and the safety of that. Any input from anybody here? I know the expectation is still there, and that's still a requirement for them to connect with employers once every 6 weeks. So that is still the expectation, I know, but in regards to making sure our teachers are traveling and going to the place of employment.
Yeah, our teachers are still doing their site visits. They just have to follow whatever the current health and safety guidelines are around utilizing masks and, you know, hygiene practices, and of course documenting, and then following whatever that particular institution's policies are for whether they have to do temperature checks when they come in, or signing in, or, you know, check like a health checkoff form.
Yeah, social distancing. Yeah. I guess some of that's also going to depend on the site. I think most sites, you know, just use normal precautions and follow the state guidelines. And any site that you didn't want a teacher going to visit, you darn sure don't want a student working at, I would think. So that's a great question.
Well, and some of our fast food places are doing a lot of drive-throughs, and their restaurant areas are not open. So in that case, I've asked them to connect with their managers and see the best way to visit those sites, observe the kids, et cetera, et cetera. But that is the, and really, they really just need to connect with the managers from the get-go. So that is the.
And that may be something, I know that, you know, Ryan said even in some instances a Zoom visit, you know, I'd be hesitant to say that a phone call worked, because that doesn't imply a visit. But, you know, if a Zoom visit is all that a business will allow, I certainly think that would work. But most time, if a student's working there, a teacher can usually go. Anyone else with a hot topic?
For those who are already seeing students in person, are your teachers, especially those singletons, teaching simultaneously your virtual learners and your on-campus? And if so, what does it look like for any synchronous learning that's happening in those class periods? We're looking for ideas.
We've been doing it at Azle for, you know, a couple of weeks, and I will tell you, they're wore out. Those teachers who have 7 preps and 6 preps and 5 preps are buried because they're doing both face-to-face and virtual. In fact, we had a superintendent's meeting yesterday trying to identify some way we give them a little relief, boost their morale, whatever it takes. I mean, they're really not complaining, but I check in with them daily, and they are tired of going to bed to hateful emails and getting up to hateful emails over people who can't access their Canvas. I mean, it's like they want to go to their house and log them onto the Zoom themselves so they'll quit complaining. Or it's been very, very frustrating. And, you know, I started warning them in June that they would have to do both. And so they, you know, started on their Canvas lessons and started trying to get ahead, but it is an overwhelming task, because it really doesn't matter if you have half of your class on distance learning or you have 2 students out of your class on distance learning. You still have to provide both. And so it's been quite frustrating. I'm open to any kind of suggestions. Other than my district will not let us pay a stipend, and they will not let us hire another teacher. So, you know, there's got to be some way to give them some relief.
Our teachers too are worn out. They tell me that they're really, really tired. We are doing synchronous learning at the high school though. So they turn it on in the classroom and record at the same time that they're teaching and then upload to Google Classroom. But they are very tired.
So
And we're-
Jean, with
I'm
that
sorry.
synchronous part for your virtual learners, is it a certain portion of the class period, or are they recording for the entire class period? And are the students that are virtual expected to stay on for the entire class period? Because we chose an asynchronous attendance model. So, you know, we do have synchronous time built in for each class period, but it's only the first 30 minutes of class, and then they're turned loose for async. So what we're trying to figure out is, what does that look like when we bring on-campus learners? You know, and how do you split that time? And I'm thinking of lab classes in particular. When our construction classes get going and there are kids on campus, they're going to be working on projects, and how does the teacher facilitate the virtual learners that haven't come back yet? I hope I'm making sense. Probably not.
We did do an asynchronous model, but our high school, the classes are synchronous, and they're expected to log on at the time that the class starts and stay on the entire period. They log out, they have their 4-minute passing time, and then they go back into their next classroom.
I'll say at Decatur, we're doing synchronous for all of our CTE. And what they're doing, like you were talking about the lab classes, they will actually go ahead, get them started, and they'll have an assignment available for them. And they'll turn off their screen and their audio, and then they might go out in the shop and do whatever they need to be doing in the shop, and then check in with those kids every once in a while. But every one of our teachers have they have a webcam that they're using, and they hate it. That's probably one of their biggest complaints right now, but that's coming from someone with bigger than me, and we're trying to work through that. And that's been a real struggle for them, because it's hard for them to be able to see when they have that going on, be able to switch between all the technologies and make sure that the kids are able to maintain connection. So that has been a big struggle.
And they can't move around the room, right? Because it's a fixed, like it's on a computer or on a stand. So don't you have to stand kind of in one general area?
Well, they've been given permission to where if they need to move around the room, they can, and just to have that webcam focus like at the very front of the room, to where they just see like the screen, whatever's on the screen in the front of the room. That way, if a parent does get on, they're not going to see all the kids in the classroom. So that was a concern at the beginning. That has not become such a concern. Right now, it just seems to be like what you're saying, when they're out in the lab, those kids just sitting there and them just checking in. They're not just sitting there. They have things for them to do, but it's a little bit different than what they were expecting. So that's a struggle. And we're also, our big struggle right now is ICEV does not play well with Canvas at all. They're saying it's taken 14 clicks is what one of our ag teachers counted for them to upload each different little module onto Canvas. So does anybody have any suggestions on that? Because that's been my deal the last 2 days, trying to help them with that. Tracy, I know we're waiting to answer this question, but while someone might be thinking about that, in Comal, we are doing 20 to 30 minutes of synchronous at the beginning of the class period, and then the kids log off and do their thing. The struggle that our teachers are having is we have some teachers with 2 or 3 preps in the same class period, and so they're having to figure that out, and we came up with a schedule based on our bandwidth. So, you know, our culinary teachers may be synchronous 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and our construction lab may be synchronous Tuesday, Thursday. So it's just all those schedules, and yeah, they're tired. They're exhausted. I can't even imagine. Cannot even imagine.
Yeah. Thanks
Those
for that, Renee, because that was another thing I was wondering about is the stacked classes.
Yeah, it's that Tracy, I'm not gonna lie, that's rough. That's
We
rough.
have some stacking like that too. I was going to ask them the ICV question if you've purchased student licenses, or is that just with the teacher licenses?
I've purchased student license, so that's with the student license. And I had a meeting with one of our ag teachers before I was on this one, just trying to troubleshoot how we can save it. There's been their entire Sunday because they have multiple preps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fact in a small district like we are, they're going to have 4 preps. And so it's killing them. And the ICEV is helping because it is giving some curriculum. They're not having to reinvent the wheel, but it's just not playing well with Canvas. And that's a district expectation to use Canvas.
Thanks for the heads up, Sheila, because we're fixing to roll Canvas out in a few weeks. So that's good heads up for us.
You're
Sheila.
welcome to give me a call or call any of our teachers. They'll tell you, but we are working through it. And we are meeting with the superintendent in the morning to see if we can't get some relief for them.
Sheila, did you call ICV? Was
Yeah,
it just
we have.
a Canvas issue? I mean, the way they act with Canvas, or?
I think it's just them with Canvas. Not Dusty, who's the other one that I can't think. Sorry, Dusty's one of our ag teachers, but it's he said that maybe by November or December they'll have it to where like you can upload an entire unit onto your Canvas, because right now, so if you're doing livestock production over the 2 weeks, you might have 20 different lessons for them to do through ICEV. And so they're having to upload every single one of those 20 lessons. They can't just say, upload this unit. And so ICEV is aware of it and aware of the issue.
Something that we heard over here at Judson ISD and working with ICEV and their technology and our technology department is that once a district rolls ICEV into Canvas, then if we're not careful, then those licenses are open to your entire district. So there needs to be some kind of, we did not roll ICEV into Canvas, but one of our ag teachers, because they're so resourceful, they called ICEV directly, and ICEV gave them the access code for Judson to get into Canvas. And so the ag teachers got ahead of the game. But one of the reasons we chose not to do it yet was twofold, but the big reason is that once you roll into Canvas, then those teachers have access to every single cluster, every single lesson available in ICEV. And when we purchased ICEV, we purchased licenses by cluster. So the ag teachers got theirs. And if you do that, ICEV does not control what teachers can get into. And then the designation of assignments of who gets what potentially could go to every single teacher. However, we're going to work with our department, IT, to see if we could just designate those access. It's a secret code, you know, and so just to our CTE teachers that are supposed to have that. Now, nonetheless, when we went through this adoption, we purchased in good faith, obviously, our access codes to ICEV, and they've been wonderful to work with. But again, we can't monitor if our teachers are just staying within their cluster. And one of the things that our reps said that a disadvantage here would be that we could potentially be using more than we're supposed to at the district level, you know, and they don't have, he can't see what the teachers are going into. But this is new territory that we're, you know, uncharted waters too for us and obviously for them. But teachers still have their old access codes. They can get in, but they want everything to merge in. They want to be able to see, they get to see the grades. So our ag teachers are already seeing the grades come in through Canvas, opposed to them going outside to ICEV and getting that information. But they're loving it. They didn't complain any about what's happening with ICEV and Canvas. They're really liking it, but they made us aware that they're able to see every single cluster in ICEV. You know, not that they're going to use it, but it opened up a new opportunity for teachers there to have all that access.
At summer conference, ICEV mentioned that that would be the case, and they were totally okay with it, it seemed like.
And there's no way to monitor that. And you know, we don't work for ICEV, so, you know, I guess if that works, then that works. Our teachers are really loving it, though. Those 5 ag teachers that got it.
I'm guessing they're paying their bills over there at ICEV this year.
Mark,
What-
you-
Yes, you got to be smarter than the mouse. But we have about 7 more minutes left, and not that we're necessarily on a time schedule. We just kind of set these for an hour. And so if we know you guys are busy and if you need to get back to other things, but is there anything pressing that would benefit the entire group here? Really been some great discussion. Has everyone had a chance to look at the new student attendance accounting handbook that is available for public comment? Other than the CTAT classes, it looked like there were some pretty minor changes. We also had one of our members catch a pretty big error from the Texas Administrative Code. I don't see Damon in here, but so public comment does matter. Well, unless anyone has any questions, make sure that if you get a chance, you might shoot your education and training teachers and your law teachers an email telling them about the instructor roundtables that we're beginning to host. And if you have any ideas, if you know of any particular career cluster or program of study that needs its own roundtable, then make sure you shoot me an email and we can put those together in just a few days. So if you know of a group of teachers that are really struggling, help us out. I know that, Lindsay, are you still in here? Let's, the Facebook, do you want to talk about the? Anyway, I was looking for Lindsay. If she was in here a minute ago, there's a Facebook group, and we got a couple of good ideas for some programs of study off of that Facebook group. Okay, last call for a question. Awesome. Then I'm going to stop recording. And it really was great seeing all of you guys. And thank you for being in here. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Ciao. Like Miss Murr always says, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. That's what she taught me to say. Thank you.